What up? This is Myron, and you are listening or watching the Rye Bread and Mustard of Mariners podcast. That down on the docks on the other side of the track, 5-star dive bar Mariners podcast that, hey, you're getting wherever you're getting it. I'm not going to judge as long as you're liking, subscribing, and you know all that good shit you should be doing. Hey, we're here wrapping up the Milwaukee Brewers series with the Seattle Mariners. The Mariners could not get another rubber match game here. They had the opportunity to win their third series in the final game of the series. Couldn't get it done. But listen, we're not going to sit here and just pound on them because they didn't do that. Today's game, or game 3, depending when you're listening, the drizzling shits. But throughout this series, there were some frustrating things, but there was quite a bit of positives and some bright spots and some things that we just kind of want to talk about. We got Samad Taylor, who's in for Ty France, who's on paternity leave. Talk about what he kind of brings to the team and how possibly he could fit into this puzzle later on in the season. We're going to take a look at Andre Munoz's 2 different night and day Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde performances. They're in the 9th inning. And if you listen to the last episode, we have some concerns. Some of those concerns are still there. Anyways, I'm going to shut the hell up. We're going to get right into this. Me and Hannah, we're breaking down the Brewers-Mariners series and looking into what we want to see in the Toronto series right after this.
Get ready to play hardball in the Kingdom.
Take me to the ball game. I want to see the Ants. The Mariners are playing hardball. Did it again and again and again. Did it again.
Princess Tours, the vacation company, brings you the best show in baseball when the San Diego Chicken plays hardball with the Seattle Mariners and the Baltimore Orioles tonight in the Kingdom.
We're doing the hurry up offense because night 2 of WrestleMania is about to happen. I got 4 pizzas sitting over here that I chose not to eat during the Mariners game because I felt like that would have been stress pity eating today on this closeout game here in rubber match in the Milwaukee sewer. The Milwaukee series. What's up, Hannah?
Hey, yeah, that series was kind of like been played in the sewer, but there were some few good things. But yeah, another series loss, third one. Well, they split the first one, but just not any consistency so far from all 3 phases of the game: offense, defense, pitching. Even the bullpen has struggled this series, and that's been something that's been so okay through the first 2 series.
Yeah, and we did enough browbeating on the last episode, but also there are still some concerns and some things that, like you said, I think you just summed it up right there. No consistency. What kind of concerns me, and just say something, is this is the 3rd rubber match or getaway game that we have lost. I know we've only had 3 series, but we missed the chance to win all 3 of these series, and that's kind of a bummer. And each game in those 3rd and 4th with Boston, but the very last game of the series, they really have came out and laid eggs in those games.
Yeah, I mean, I look at it this way. In the rubber match of the games, they are giving Cal the day off. They're playing Sevy. Their bottom part of their lineup is usually the guys that aren't, starting. Haniger hasn't been in there. So it's a day to give the catcher a break, but it seems like it's a day that Scott always gives most of the guys a break. It's a getaway day. It's a day game, followed from a night game the night before and then traveling for another game the next day. So it's just the way the schedule's worked out. So I look at it also as the way the lineup's been constructed, but it makes sense. I'm not complaining. It's just kind of how it is. And the Mariners lineup hasn't been that great. And when you subtract from that with your guys that aren't starters and they're all implemented, you're already going up against the 8-ball, especially with this team not hitting well.
I know the last episode, like I said, we got a little, we were, very critical, but we also said we weren't going to sugarcoat it. We wanted the Mariners to get off on a good start. Of course, you want any of your sports teams to get off on a good start. It's just that this has been somewhat the trend for the last 3 or 4 years, with this coaching staff and with this organization. And we knew April was going to be tough, but they got to win a series here. I'm hoping the Toronto series is going to change things. We've had a lot of good luck with Toronto here in the last few years. Some of our biggest games, players that really haven't gotten things going, like Cal and Julio, they've had big series against Toronto. So I'm hoping to see that. Maybe some of that familiarity and getting in that stadium will turn things around here.
Yeah, I mean, I got a chance to watch the games with a couple different buddies over these last series, and it's interesting. Baseball is such a way where people can have different opinions and see different things because there's so many things that happen in the game. And what they brought up, and they're dead nuts right on, is the pitches the M's seem to take. They're meatballs. And once they said that, I really watched that closely. They're exactly right. So you got to hit the balls that are, meatballs, like they said, and they're taking those. And as we saw Milwaukee, the way they played, they don't miss them, even in the situation and, the rubber match of the series here. Emerson didn't get a call down the way, and a guy gets a high fastball out of the zone and gets them going, and they answer right back in that first inning. So you got to tip your cap, but the Mariners are sure letting a lot of strikes go by that are excellent pitches to hit.
Yeah, you're right. If there's a cookie on the plate, you got to be a monster.
Baseball sure has changed, Junior.
Yeah, the hexagon replaced the diamond.
And can you imagine facing 3 pitches?
Emerson on base. Oh, the base ejector caught him snoozing. He goes
Why did
sailing.
it all change?
All sport. The game just got too easy.
The unsurpassed taste of all sport. A third more carbs than Gatorade for energy could make a difference.
Next up,
Your grandson's up.
Ken Griffey IV. He connects. It's going. Watch out, center point. Oh!
Center Bliss got him.
He was robbed.
All sport body quencher. The game will never be the same.
So Samad Taylor's up. I got to say, I really like that infield bunt single we saw the other day, and just watching him bust his ass up the line. This guy is lightning fast.
Yeah, I mean, he's just trying something. He is a spark. Yeah, he is lightning fast. He helped spark in game 1, the comeback. Yep. The Mariners who go with their righty lineup, or lefty lineup, I should say, against a righty pitcher. Scott Service went to the bench real early and pinch hit. Or Rayleigh, more for Rayleigh, Canzone, Taylor pinch hit for him, and then Urias for Rojas. And that was early on in the 6th inning. And it's like, oh, that's a little soon, But those guys all came through and collectively strung some hits together to get that rally going and get the Mariners back into it. Because like you said, they were stone cold, the bats, and he was part of that. That's something we haven't seen. D. Moore came through off the bench, but to get all 3 of those guys in there like that and change the momentum and the outlook of how that game was going, and to give them a lead, and I mean, we'll go for there, but yeah, that was a big spark in that inning, and Taylor was part of that.
Yeah, and you mentioned Demo. Yeah, this is what you want to see from your guy coming off the bench. What he's hitting about 250, gets on base a lot, can play everywhere. We already know what Demo is made of and what he can bring to the team. He's doing his job. Obviously, we need the stars to align for this to, fully get the value of what you have this guy, but he's playing good. We've seen Samad Taylor do his thing. Urias has had some good at bats too. And then we look at what Rojas is doing. And then let's even go back and think about like Haniger or Rayleigh, like those depth platoon guys have played pretty good here so far this season.
Urias, he hasn't had the success, but if you're just looking at his at-bats and how they've gone, there's some quality at-bats. He's seen a lot of pitches. He's fouled off some pitches. We'll get into his success from getting on the old home run total in game 2, but, it's things like that. And getting back to game 1, we get that lead, and this is another if you want to look to the flip side of the spark, another thing that's a looking the other way that's been a problem through this team, and it happened throughout this series, when the M's get the lead, their bullpen or their starting pitcher, whoever that comes right back out, cannot put up a zero. And that happened continuously throughout this series. So that's another thing that they can't shut the door and keep the momentum if and when they start to get the momentum in a game.
Yeah, and pretty out of character for what we've typically seen here with the Mariners over the last couple of years. But every season is different. We just started off. Also, bullpens settle in, but yes, we have to see more of that shut down when we get the lead. And it has been a combination of the bullpen not being able to do that, or the defense. From what I saw, the defense was better this series, a shitload better than what we saw in the Cleveland series.
Yeah, I agree. It wasn't so much the quote unquote no doubt error, but it was some plays that were, difficult. But like I mentioned earlier, they didn't come up with that would have helped them secure a victory or stop the bleeding in an inning.
Yeah, and let's go back to game one really quick there in the ninth inning. What did you see when you're watching that in real time with Andre Munoz? And then we'll get into the victory. So we saw him, I wouldn't call it implode, but definitely just never could get on track. And then the next day was like a whole nother person. So let's start with Friday's game. Tie game 5-5. Andres Munoz coming in. Do you like him right there in that spot, or would you went with a different move?
No, I like him, but it wasn't really Munoz to me. Yeah, he lost the game. It was a tie game going into it, but it gets back to my previous comment as I'm watching the game there, and the Mariners take the lead after just absolutely doing nothing the whole game. And like I just said to you, if they give this right back, there's no way they're winning that game. And, Stanek came in, pitched good.
Okay.
He gave some bloopers, some Texas leaguers, some not very hard hit balls, but they found holes. And that was key to me. I just knew once they got back and got into this game, there was no chance that the Mariners would win that game. There's never, ever any time when the Mariners work so hard to get back into the game and they give it back up. They just don't have it to be able to then shut her down and get it back. I just feel like from watching all these years, it very rarely happens. When a scenario like that happens, they end up kicking it and losing it like they did. And yeah, I mean, there was a tough play. Ball smoked to JP right at him. Up the hole he was playing. Could have came up with it. It's a tough play, gets them back in and ties the game. And like you mentioned, we come back into Munoz there in the ninth. He just, as far as I'm seeing and watching, he just didn't have any control that day.
You're right. You give that run right back to him.
Yeah, and I mean, with Munoz, and we bring up another key word we've brought up so far is consistency. Ever since he's been put in that closer role, or the last man standing out there, he has not been consistent. He's been shaky quite a bit, and that's concerning. I know it's a newer role for him. We talk about this, but it's going on 2 years, or not 2 years, but since Sewell was traded. But he's had going on his first full year of this, and he's been shaky. I think this was a little bit of an anomaly. He just didn't have his command. I like to see him, he went to the curveball quite a bit, that big, which is a dynamite pitch, but he couldn't, locate it for a strike. He throws 100 miles an hour. I like to see him just get it up there and let it rip when he doesn't have his command. So just some things I see, and, he was able to bounce back, that's for sure, as we'll talk about later on.
Well, once I move on from that, before I move on from that, I do want to say there was some bullshit fucking calls at the plate in that ninth inning and in that game one. But if we're just going to point at that, that doesn't really hold for, all 27 outs there. But anyways, moving on to game two, this was another great feeling of a game. Of course, we're going to end up with Munoz going in and closing it down, but the Mariners putting some runs on the board, putting a big inning together. Early on in this game, we saw them jump on the Brewers first and get this lead, and again, kind of let it go. And they go and they get, it turns into a 1-run game, and they get that insurance run in the 9th inning. And I enjoyed this game throughout. They got 10 hits, still striking out 11 times, 10 times. The strikeouts are still up there. But this game, I really enjoyed watching the offense in this game for the most part.
Yeah, I mean, like you mentioned earlier on, they manufactured their runs to get the lead to start the game. Julio started off with a bouncer chopper up the middle to score a run, and nothing was scored via the long ball to start, like you mentioned. And for me, it was Bryce Miller. He was fantastic.
Absolutely.
One of the best starts of his young career. That splitter was working. They've talked about ad nauseum, how he throws that a lot to the left-handed batters who he's had trouble with in his young, short career facing the lefties. They'd have a lot of success against him. He was throwing that splitter to them. He always throws it to the righties, but what was really nice to see, lefties were 0 for 13 with 4 Ks. He was against the lefties, so that's really positive. But, I mean, he was just dialed in. Like I said, he looked great. Fastball in and out, up and down, and that splitter was dynamic. I mean, the way that ball tunnels, it looks like a fastball, and then the hitter has no chance. But, yeah, he was the key to the game for me. Came out, was so successful. Came out you've pitched all the way into the 7th inning with only 78 pitches, but Scott wanted to pull him out, and that's been kind of controversial, but I get it as far as he's young. He threw his max innings last year. It's early on the season, but next guy they bring in, Vogt, he gave up the big home run to make it, kind of pucker time when it was 4-2, so, but the M's... 4-2, kind of going out of order, but they then get some long balls like from Polanco and a nice insurance one from Urias to give them the nice victory.
Yeah, and for Bryce Miller, this is a big win, not only for him going deep into the game. We talked about it was Miller time in Miller Park, right?
Yeah.
And look, the Mariners needed that win. They were going on a 3-game losing streak into this. You lose that 4th game in a row, then I feel like it starts turning those wheels of what the fuck is going on. I mean, that was a big win. It was a big win on Saturday.
Oh yeah, and then to bring it back to Munoz, to give him the chance. I told you I watched the game with somebody. We were talking, and I was like, I don't think they're going to bring him in, It's pitched a lot of pitches the game before. Sure, he wasn't successful. And, Scott hasn't really gone to any of his bullpen guys in back-to-back days, but he did go back to Munoz, which was nice to see because he had his stuff, and he got right back on the horse and just blew them away and looked really good in doing it. So it was an interesting decision to talk about amongst us, and it was the right decision.
Yeah, and offensively, this is another game where we saw Samad Taylor. This is the game where he had the bunt single, correct?
Yeah.
I believe he got things going here. I'm just happy when we bring up, when we're losing somebody like Ty France right now. Honestly, it's concerning that he's gone because he was in such a great rhythm right now, obviously for great reasons. But I'm just saying, as far as let's just say fantasy sports fan owner looking at it, you're like, oh damn, I hope he can keep it going. We're losing some strokes here. We get Samad Taylor in here. It also gave Rayleigh a chance to get some more at bats. So again, I liked how they manufactured everything, and then you get the big home run from Polanco, which was huge for him, I'm sure. Get that first Mariners home run after the slow start he had there in the first week of the season.
Yeah, ball was crushed in the right center field upper deck. You mentioned Rayleigh at first. Yeah, I was interested to see how he would play. I don't remember if it was game 1 or game 2, but nice diving play in the hole
Yep.
towards second base. Came up real nice and made that nice PFP underhand toss to the pitcher. So yeah, he looked solid over there. And then yeah, they went back to Demo at first. The next game, or maybe that was the first game that happened because Demo played first the next 2 games, I believe. So yeah, nice to have them guys that can mismatch all over the field.
Yeah, and in this game too, not only Polanco had the home run, he had a nice little jump and stab, a play we'd like our second baseman to make, but I also thought that was a nice stab by him. He was just seemed like there was just more, I don't know, attitude, energy out of this guy in this game. It was really good to see him just get it going. You know, and again, we see Munoz jump back in there, jump on the horse, and you went from a possible 4-game losing streak to having a chance to win the series, and then today's game happened, Sunday's game happened. The drizzling shits. I mean, it's just one of those games. I know I heard on the broadcast, I think they're just running out of things to say. They're going, you can't blame it all on the pitching today. The offense only put up 2 runs. But I think once you sit out in the field and the team puts a 10 to a dozen runs on you, I don't know if you're getting the most quality at bats anymore the rest of the game.
Well, yeah, they talked about that for sure. Aaron asked Mike how you can stay dialed in, and those are like you said, can a batter stay locked in like that? And Mike said, well, yeah, it's a team game, but it's also an individual sport. So yeah, it's hard to, no doubt. I mean, they started talking about Mike and his animals, what he has at his house to bring up to, because the game was so out of hand. But yeah,
And
it just
or the kid in the crowd, they kept going back to him. The kid that got the little the baseball that his dad got, and he threw it at the people sitting in front of him.
yeah,
They kept
exactly.
going back to the kid. I guess that was the big Mariner highlight today. Tough day for Hancock, but guess what? This is just going to happen to rookie pitchers. It's this rotation of like, hey, out of 4 starts, you're going to have 1 that you get blown up. You're probably going to have 1 where absolutely lights out. And then the other 2, you're going to probably give your team a chance to win. It's just, we haven't seen this out of him. Oh, I think he maybe got roughed up like this once last year, but how are you concerned about Emerson Hancock, or do you think this is just, hey, this is a good Brewers team? This team's good. I think you picked the Brew Crew in the Central too. I mean, these guys can get after the ball.
Yeah, I did. I mean, yeah, they don't miss pitches. They're aggressive at the plate. They have good at bats. They don't chase. I mean, everything you want in an offensive club. And they don't have any big names either. I mean, big names. They have some great players, the catcher. They got Adames. They signed Reese Hoskins. So they're kind of like the Mariners, but as far as name recognition goes, Mariners probably have a superstar in Julio compared to them, but yeah, they hit the ball. I think it's overblown a little bit too when your club is struggling like the Mariners have, and Hancock goes out there and the Mariners jump on him early, and then like we mentioned, they give runs right back, but not just one, multiple innings with more than 1 run, and it's magnified, and it's unfortunate because that was the slot that Hancock was put into because it's his time to pitch. So he'll bounce back.
We've got guys from all over the world in our club. Veterans like Edgar Martinez really help them out.
I'd like a double tall latte, please.
I like a double tall latte, please.
How about them cooks?
How about them cooks?
Gooey duck.
Gooey duck.
I took my gooey duck to Puyallup.
I took my gooey duck to Puyallup.
Good.
The Seattle Mariners. You gotta love these guys.
Yeah, sure, you betcha.
Yeah, well, and here's one other plus thing. Dom Canzone's home run was a fucking bomb. And you're getting glimpses more to see how much of a possibly a good power hitter he can turn into. Consistency is something that he definitely needs to work at or get better at the plate, but that power is there.
Yeah, definitely a Jay Buhner style home run when the M's are down a bunch and gets them on the board, good for the stats. Yeah, I need to see some more consistency out of Canzone. Yeah, he had another nice hit with another big exit velocity over 100. He's just not consistent enough yet for me, and with his defense being kind of rough out there, he's average to below average. His hitting's got to carry him, and it's early on in the season, but yeah, the power is there. I totally agree with you. When he connects, it goes.
Now, let me ask you just kind of I don't think it's a crazy question. It's more of how do all these pieces fit together as a puzzle? This just came to me right now. Just because we've talked about Rayleigh, you've seen there's a little versatility there, right? Can play first base, can play in the outfield. We have Haniger, we obviously have Julio. And then, we got a glimpse of Taylor, right? If you were to say, does this team need a player like Taylor more than maybe having both Rayleigh and Canzone out there on a roster spot? Is that something that you kind of look at going forward if there is a struggle right there? I mean, I guess what I'm trying to say is, do we have a lot of the same things? Are we missing that one, like, just speed spark plug guy?
Well, besides that, he also gives you from the right hand side, Taylor does, along with his speed. Yeah, Rayleigh and Canzone are a lot alike. Both lefties, Rayleigh's got a lot more speed than Canzone. I would say Rayleigh's a better defender than Canzone. I can say Canzone's a better hitter than Rayleigh. As far as power wise, it's still early on. Rayleigh's only had one half of a good year of being consistent. So, I mean, that conversation, I bet, is going to happen in the Mariners clubhouse between their coaches and stuff, especially if they're all kind of scrapping at the same time. But it definitely will be. Could be a conversation that they have.
Yeah, I just kind of watching through the highlights and the at bats and stuff like that. When I was watching Samad Taylor, and I went back and looked at some of the stuff he did with the Royals, when he got called up, had a couple of really big moments last year. Had some a game-winning interview that I listened to. Kind of looked at a couple of things that kind of reminded me of in 2022 when we had Sam Haggerty going at his best, of just having a guy that has that skill set of, like, man, can be a terror on the bases, play around the outfield, just quick, bring him in at the end of the game, and just finding a way to get a hit. Like Haggerty was doing that. And then I don't think he's ever been the same. I don't think it's why, but once he went down there in 2022, we haven't seen that level of that play out of anybody here on the team. We saw little glimpses here and there with Caballero, but I do miss that style of play on the team, because I just feel like there's a lot of the same things when I look at it. Is basically kind of like why I thought of that.
No, I see why you're preaching. I mean, I can subscribe to it, no doubt. I mean, you mentioned too, yeah, he could be a defensive replacement at the end. He had a great spring. I don't know that much about him. You probably do a little bit more than me and looked into him a little bit more. But what I've seen, he looks really good. So, I mean, yeah, if Canzone or Rayleigh was to struggle, I could totally see him maybe sticking around here, or them rotating guys through on who's the hot hand. I mean, he's only had a couple games up here, but from what I've seen, he looks like that type of player that you just described, and that could help the Mariners and be that spark.
Yeah, and again, I'm not calling for this move. It's just a thought like that. I was like, just how the puzzles, like I said, all the puzzle pieces work to go in. This is the formula of winning. I'd be interested to see if Ty France, I didn't hear yet here in the post game. Is he expected to be here in the Toronto series, or do you think they'll just let him stay at home with his wife and brand new child and not go to Toronto, not have to go through customs, as they were saying on the broadcast, like a regular person? I just wonder what's going to happen there. And
yeah, tell me.
A solo home run by former Mariner shortstop Yuneski Betancourt when I went to that.
Oh, jeez.
And then
so Bill the Beer Man went down the slide for a Yuneski Jack.
Yes. And if you go to Miller Park, it's cool. There's a lot of areas, though, in that stadium where you can't see the game, when you're walking around. But there is a concession stand out in, I believe, right field, and it has homage to the Seattle Pilots in it. So if you ever go out there and check that out, you'll see a little bit of that lineage. But they got a nice little park outside, like a monumental park to the Milwaukee Braves. But the Mariners are going to Toronto. Just some quick things that we really want to see. That I really, really, really desperately want to see, and I think everybody, Julio and Cal, to really turn it up in this series.
Yeah, like to see them getting warmer, no doubt. And then to add on to it, it's going to be the third start for Luis Castillo. Yep. Like to see him get off to a good start and be kind of dominating how we've seen him. Yeah, he might give up his home run. Hopefully it's only a solo shot, but this is the home opening series for the Blue Jays. They're going to have a packed house, a lot of energy in the stands, so that's going to be a part of it as well.
Yeah, so we'll be back to talk about this, wrapping up that series. Again, it's WrestleMania Sunday. If you're I don't know when I'm going to get this out, but it'll be out soon. But I'm excited for WrestleMania too. We'll talk about my scorecard on the next episode to see how accurate or inaccurate I was. I got to say, after day one, I was surprised. There's a lot of surprises. My scorecard took some hits, but I was right about some of the bigger things. But a lot of the mid card, I was quite off. But that's good. That's what I enjoy that in wrestling when I'm swerved. I know wrestling fans, if you think Mariners fans can get crazy on Twitter, you have not lived in the wrestling world. Okay. You have not dealt with the Cody crybabies. Okay. You have not dealt with CM Punk's army of people. It's a whole nother level. This is that the Mariners Twitter is ginger beer compared to what WWE or wrestling Twitter is like. Anyways, thanks for liking, subscribing, and all that good shit. Hey, we got to just move on. Hopefully looking for the stars to align and the Mariners to get their first victory. This would be a big, nice victory coming home. I know that we said we wanted a 4-2, at the worst, a 2-4. They still have the opportunity, still have that 4-2. Just need that sweep in Toronto. Done it before. Had a lot of success against them. With that being said, Hanno, you know what time it is.